New laws are now in effect in Florida. Most importantly, a new budget is in place. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle join us to talk about the priorities of the legislature, the local impacts, and what Governor DeSantis has set in motion, both with his line item vetoes and supporting the White House with detention facilities. From Alligator Alcatraz to the plans for Camp Blanding in Clay County. We'll dig into those topics on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us today. Floridians can now save on hurricane prep supplies all year round thanks to a new law that eliminates sales tax on items like batteries, generators, tarps, much more. Last year, Florida's disaster preparedness sales tax holiday was limited to 2 specific periods during hurricane season. Now, as part of the state's new $2 billion tax relief package, those items are always tax-free. Tax relief package also included a permanent repeal of the commercial lease tax, renewed and expanded sales tax holidays, and permanent sales tax exemptions on things like state park admission and certain items for outdoor activities. And joining us today are 2 of the lawmakers who made that tax relief package happen. State Senator Jennifer Bradley from Clay County and State Senator Tracie Davis from Jacksonville. I appreciate you making it happen for us to be together and talk through some of these things. Let's start, maybe Jennifer Bradley, if you would start. What do you believe were some of the wins for the legislative session when you look at this budget that's now in effect?
Well, first of all, thank you, Kent, for having me, and it's always great to be with my tremendous colleague, Senator Davis. I was just in the Villages on Monday with Governor DeSantis when he signed the budget, and this budget is a win for Florida. Florida is the most fiscally conservative, well-managed state. We have done incredible work to reduce spending year over year. We have put a tremendous amount of money into savings, into our rainy day fund. We have paid down our debt to a tremendous amount. 50% of the state's debt has been paid since Governor DeSantis has been leading the state. That saves millions in interest in addition to the financial burden that's no longer on the state. As you alluded to, we have $2 billion in tax relief for families and businesses, and that's with no income tax. So I'm really proud of this budget. I think it really reflects the priorities of Florida. And it may have taken just a little longer,
right.
but I think ultimately this budget is a big win for Florida.
Yeah, and if unfamiliar, Senator Bradley is referencing that the legislative session was March, the beginning of May, and then had to go back in June and settle some things. Senator Davis, what do you think? What were some of the wins when you look at the budget?
Like my colleague said, and thank you, Ken, for being here. Great job, Jennifer, saying that. Overall, I have to agree with her. The budget was decent. I mean, we had some, I think, areas where we could have improved, but Jacksonville, Duval County made out great in this budget. We have some really, really great wins that we're going to talk about. I do think we missed some marks as usual when we're dealing with monies and for our families and Floridians here. Again, Duval County is a school district that's important to me because we live here, but our school districts took a hit in some different areas, and I know we're going to talk about that, as well as some youth activities and social service programs. We didn't do as well in those areas.
Why, and Senator Davis, I'll stay with you for the moment, but why do you think it took longer to get there? I know that this budget is a little bit lower than it was the previous year. Obviously, the governor came early in 2025 and said, here's my budget priorities, and then the House and Senate, you have to craft your own and say, that's what we're giving back to you, Mr. Governor.
Wow. Why did it take so long? If I have to be honest with my colleague.
Yes, please.
There was a lot of infeuding. There was a lot of fighting behind the scenes between.
Within the chambers or between the chambers, between the House and the Senate?
Between the House and the Senate, with this particular governor wanting certain things in this budget and the way he wanted it done. This governor has had a heavy hand when he's dealing with our chambers. I am very supportive of the Senate and very proud of how our president stood firm when it got to that point. But there was a lot of infighting and behind the scenes negotiating and horse trading near the end that a lot of people didn't see. There were a number of things that the Senate held strong on and we didn't allow to be put in the budget. But those last 5 days, we had some issues where we just didn't want to talk about that.
Chris Hand was our guest last week. He worked for Governor Graham and Bob Graham when he was in the U.S. Senate, but he said it's not completely unprecedented that this would happen, but it seemed unusual to me, Senator Bradley, that it would take this long and there would be some of that infighting, it seemed like.
That is true. It went a little long. There was lively, we say heated debate between the chambers. But remember, that's the process. That is, we have three branches of government. We have legislator who passes our bills and appropriates. And we have a governor whose role we saw this week with vetoes and line item vetoes. Yeah. And you saw that healthy process at work. You saw a lot of debate over what is the best way to cut taxes. If we're going to have debates in this state that lively and extensive, let it be over how we can best deliver Floridians' money back to them. A debate worth having. Is it sales tax? Is it property tax? Is it tax exemptions? And we spent a lot of time really thoughtfully considering that. And there is a divergence of ideas on the best way to deliver that relief. And ultimately, it played out in a package that isn't perfect. There's no perfect product that we execute, but it is the very best product, I think.
So, Senator Bradley, when I think about Clay County, so Governor DeSantis, you said, hey, I was there, he signed the budget. Gave the green light for City of Green Cove Springs. They're working on this trail along the St. Johns River, going to connect historic Spring Park to the new Shands Bridge over the river to St. Johns County. That certainly seemed like something that was going to make a difference in your district.
I love projects like that. You should not have to be able to afford to live on the river to enjoy the beautiful natural resources we have in Northeast Florida with the river and our springs and lakes. So I love projects that provide access for the public to be able to come and enjoy all that Northeast Florida has to offer.
Yeah, because a lot to offer and a lot of enjoyment that can be had at the river, even if you don't live there. Senator Davis, among the wins in Duval County, I saw there you had helped push for this, but $850,000 for a mobile lab, raising awareness of career and technical education in Duval County for elementary age kids.
Yes, really excited about that one. The Career and Technical Institute Education, just excited about it. We were kind of negotiating near the end, and I didn't really think we would get that one over the finish line. And I actually thought that would be something the governor vetoed because there was a number of Career Institute initiatives throughout the budget, but we were able to get that one over the finish line, so really excited.
Yeah, I've been talking about this for a little while. MOSH, Museum of Science and History, so this Genesis project, I understand $5 million total from the state is adding to already $87 million, I think, in local and private donations there. But this could help transform the shipyards and obviously a draw. It can be a draw for tourism and education in our area.
Right. Downtown we're revitalizing downtown, especially with the stadium coming in, and we're doing all of that around that area. So, I mean, people are moving downtown, and so we're looking fabulous. So I'm excited about all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement about some of those things. Later on, we're going to talk about how maybe it's not so exciting when a project gets vetoed and you were saying, hey, this is important. But I'll tell you what, much more to discuss here, so I appreciate you saying you'll stay with us. As we go to a commercial and then we'll come back, there's a big collaboration between the Sunshine State and the federal government. It's about to impact Northeast Florida. We're going to talk about Alligator Alcatraz and Camp Blanding. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
So the spotlight on Florida's new immigrant detention centers now shifts to Camp Blanding following President Trump's visit to Alligator Alcatraz this past week. Governor DeSantis says 2,000 detainees will soon be housed at this new facility at Camp Blanding in Clay County. However, according to the state's detention center plan, there are 4 key areas that need improvement before Camp Blanding can be operational as a detention center. Those include food service support, safety measures, specific building facilities, and some contractual requirements. State hasn't yet disclosed the cost of those necessary improvements. Typically, though, if you're not familiar, Camp Blanding serves as a training center for Florida National Guard. Pretty busy facility, and it's located in a sparsely populated area surrounded by woods, I should say, on both sides. Remains unclear how long it'd take for the detention facility at Camp Blanding to open. For comparisons, though, the emergency management director noted that the facility set up in the Everglades, that was established in just like 8 days. State Senators Tracie Davis and Jennifer Bradley are with us. Senator Bradley, this is part of the area that you represent here, Clay County. How do you feel about this?
Yeah. Well, I think you've seen Florida be a real leader in terms of partnering with the federal government to address illegal immigration. And with that leadership and with the relationships that now the state government has throughout all the municipalities and law enforcement through the state, we want to make sure that our local jail space is being preserved for the criminals that are in our communities and in our state. And immigration doesn't overwhelm local law enforcement jail space. And that's why you see Alligator Alcatraz and Camp Blanding, where people will go for processing for a few days before deportation and other decisions can be made with regard to their immigration status. And so those are needed facilities and needing processing points for the state so that our law enforcement isn't burdened and overwhelmed by the enforcement that we're seeing.
Senator Davis, so Senator Bradley's Republican, you're a Democrat. This seems like a partisan comment when we ask people about this. Democrats have said we're not really in favor of this. Absolutely not.
When you are looking at what's happening in the prison camps that the president and our governor just toured, we simply see that as inhumane and cruel. Now, what we do agree on, Democrats and Republicans, is that we do want something to be done about immigration. That is a popular message, and voters have told us that. But how we go about this, we see it very differently.
Why do you feel like it's inhumane, whether we're talking about Camp Blanding or down south?
You have the reports of people dying when they're in these facilities, and so the issue is public safety. The issue is how will they be taken care of. The issue is how will these people be talked to, and how will this be decided why they're here. We already know a number of people have been picked up through these ICE raids in various places in Home Depot and construction sites, and many of these people are just here on a TPS, a temporary postponement. So, and that's the cancellation of it. So we just don't. We agree that something needs to be done. We do not agree on the fact and the measure of how it's being done.
And I think we all agree, and hopefully most of you will too, that nobody has died at any of these detention centers
Not the
yet.
two we're talking about.
And we don't want them to.
Right.
How would you recommend addressing that kind of concern from Democrats?
Thank you. Well, the fact of the matter is the state of Florida is leading. The nation has spoken. The state of Florida has spoken. We are a nation of laws. And if you are in the country illegally, if you are in the state of Florida illegally, and you are a criminal, there is going to be a process to make sure that you are no longer in the state of Florida. And it is the state government's role to make sure that we have a process to make that happen efficiently. Floridians in the country have waited decades to try to restore a rule of law with regard to who is in our country and secure our borders. This does that. The Alligator Alcatraz that we saw in the news, it is air conditioned. It is, people will be treated well. They are not staying there. It is not a detention center and a concentration camp. I've heard lots of words used to describe it. It is not a long-term facility. It is a place where you go to process immigration status and make determinations with regard to that individual's future, either in or out of the United States. I trust Governor DeSantis. Kevin Guthrie's in charge of Division of Emergency Management. He is as fine and professional of an individual who will make every effort to make sure that these are processing places that Florida can be proud of and hopefully be a model for the country.
Yeah, I want to make sure, for balance, I give you kind of last word on this topic and then we'll move on.
I agree with some of that, and I will just repeat the fact that this has turned into a huge partisan issue. Again, Democrats and Republicans want something to be done. This is the approach of our Republican leadership, and again, Democrats just see this as humane and cruel as to how we're proceeding in this nature. This, for us, is a political stunt that has just elevated over a period of time. We all want to make sure that people in this country are here illegally. We just do not agree as to how it's being done.
You want people here legally, not illegally.
Correct.
And so the enforcement is just where maybe you disagreeing on how it's
going about.
All right. Thank you very much. So stay with us. And we talked earlier about budget wins. There are also some projects that didn't make the cut. The impact of the governor's line item vetoes. We'll talk about that next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
And we're joined today by State Senators Tracie Davis and Jennifer Bradley. Florida's governor has line item veto power, and he exercised it last week. So, Senator Davis, were there places where you're disappointed that certain things were X'd out by that pen?
Absolutely. I do have to say that Jacksonville did really good as far as bringing projects back. That's what I want folks to know. We did excellent with our team, but there were some disappointments. We had some project with Daniel's treatment program there that was vetoed. That was actually never in the budget. We couldn't get that on the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, and we want to go back and try that again. We actually had some infrastructure projects that the city of Jacksonville went in for, got that all the way to the finish line, and the governor vetoed both of those projects for our community members. And I think we did really well. Not too many vetoes. I can't really complain a lot about that, but like I said earlier, some of our social services programs were taken away from us, and one that was really pertinent and special to me are some of our scouts for our Girl Scouting and our Boy Scouting programs. All of that was vetoed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Senator Bradley, what about you? Any disappointments there because of vetoes?
Let's just back up to how the projects come to be. So when session is over, we spend sort of the off session, between sessions. I represent 7 counties:
Yeah.
Clay, Baker, Bradford, Union, Columbia, Gilchrist, and the northern half of Alachua. So I spend a lot of time on the road. And before session, we meet with the counties, we meet with the delegations, and they share their needs. And that's how the projects come to be. That's how the project form gets filed before session starts. So all of these projects are things that you care about, that you've talked to the people in the community about, that you understand how important they are. So whenever any of them get vetoed, it's disappointing. But there's communication with the governor's office. Why did this get vetoed? What did the project? How did the governor want to see the project look? Or was there something of concern in the project? And then we come back next year. And we craft the policy, or the project rather, in a way that everybody can agree on. And that's happened with some of my projects in the past where it was vetoed. We changed the scope of the project, came back, and had it funded a subsequent year. So there's next year. These projects can be fine-tuned. And so these are all projects that will continue to fight for. Did very well. My 7 counties did very well. I represent a lot of fiscally constrained counties, and so my project list really is full of needs, less wants and all needs, and so it's these are important projects.
Well,
so.
I like how both of you characterized it. Hey, yeah, I might have been disappointed. Let's talk about the positives.
There are a lot of
bring some
positives.
things to the people that you represent when it comes to that. So you give us the behind the scenes. Does it ever get personal, or does it ever feel personal? Hey, the governor's office, if not the governor himself, said no, and I thought this was really important.
In the years past, looking at my colleague, in the years past, sometimes I did think it was personal. But this year, for the first time, it was really just looking. I know we looked at projects, they really assessed projects, they really evaluated things. I've had community members, organizations that had projects in that were actually calling saying, hey, I got a call from the governor's office. So they were really doing their due diligence to make sure that funding was going to the organizations that would feel the best need, right?
Those vetoes weren't whimsical, because it sounds like the governor's office is doing that due diligence.
But we also had, again, Jacksonville, I think, won some really, really strategic and very popular things. We have for Baptist Medical Center, we're now getting a new expansion. That project was fully funded at $4.5 million, and something that's really important in labor and delivery. Our Jacksonville Fairgrounds, they actually were fully funded at $3.2 because of the transition from moving downtown over to the west side. So there were really, really some big wins for Jacksonville.
Yeah. What about you, Senator Bradley? Does it ever feel personal?
It doesn't,
No.
and I think a lot of times that is through communication with the governor's office and understanding. I had a project vetoed one year, and through communication, the governor's office said, look, there's a grant program that isn't used a lot, but this project would fit in the scope of that. They really should apply for a grant instead of having it come out of general revenue. That's fair, and I work with the county, and that's what we did. But there was a lot of really good projects got over the finish line, from 3 new schools in my district for fiscally constrained counties, you know, roads, public infrastructure, things that will support firefighters, fire trucks, apparatus. These are really core roles of government that will really help our counties be successful, and so I'm just really grateful for all the projects that got over the finish line. My phone's already ringing for projects for next year, and sometimes the whole project isn't funded and you only get a piece of it. So I have several projects where we're looking to do phase 2 next year and make sure that that we can finish out some things, but overall, very successful year.
It sounds like in your roles as state senators, you got to be a little persistent, right?
Yes,
You've got to be able to bounce back.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Senator Tracie Davis, Senator Jennifer Bradley, thank you so much for your time and giving us some of the behind the scenes and explaining the good stuff that's coming in this new budget in the state of Florida. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so don't forget to check out This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition with Florida officially recognizing gold and silver as legal tender. Many are left wondering, hey, what does this mean for investors? So that's the topic of this episode of our podcast, and you're going to find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. You're going to find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville. Also find This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition available wherever you find your podcasts, like Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks so much for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17, and then finding us online at news4jax.com. And don't forget, you can always find us streaming on News4Jax Plus.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.